Well, hi, everyone. My name is Mariel Reed. I'm the co-founder and CEO of CoProcure. We're a technology startup here in the Bay Area that's working to build tools that make it easier for public agencies to collaborate on procurement. I'm also a former public servant with the city of San Francisco.
Hi, everyone. I'm Annie Teav, and I'm in central purchasing at Multnomah County in Portland, Oregon. And fun fact, it is the largest county in the state of Oregon. And we are obsessed with public procurement and think that you all should be too. So why be obsessed with procurement? Well, from designing better digital services to improving school lunches, fixing potholes, and addressing homelessness, all of these things that government do, it relies on procurement.
Yeah, so procurement is massive. Roughly 1 out of every 3 of our government dollars go towards buying something. At the local level in the US alone, that's over $1 trillion that we spend on buying stuff each year. Also, if you care about social justice, you probably should care about procurement. Procurement matters because the way that we buy things and how quickly we buy things affects our ability to deliver public services. And therefore, it affects also those who depend on our public services. In addition, because government business is big business, which firms win government contracts and the composition of those firms matters for the future of economic development across the country. And finally, if we don't have you hooked just yet, you should care about public purchasing because whether you're a supplier like CoProcure,
or you're in government like me,
procurement is probably part of your painful reality. So we have a couple of goals for today's conversation. First, we want to help you understand how public purchasing works at the local level. Second, we want to equip you with tools you can use to make navigating public purchasing a little bit easier. And third, we want to invite you to join us and a growing group of public servants and suppliers working together to improve the process.
So first, let me get you the lowdown on procurement. Procurement is a lot like plumbing. Plumbing, it's not the first thing you notice, right? As long as it's working. You turn on the faucet, water comes out. You don't really have to think about how to engineer those pipes as long as you can drink it. Similarly, procurement, it manages the flow of money in and out of government. The process is intended to connect government staff with the goods and the services that they need to perform mission-critical work. And they need to do this in a way that is open, competitive, and fair. But that process today, it's kind of hard, and it's expensive, and it's a little leaky. Not good in plumbing, right? It doesn't work as well as it can or it should for public servants, for businesses, or for the residents of the communities that we serve. We can estimate that across the country, local government purchasing inefficiencies cost taxpayers $300 billion a year.
Why all the waste? Before you go blaming public servants like Annie, pause and recognize that because public agencies are spending our taxpayer dollars, the way that they spend that money is regulated. Roughly, the more money you want to spend in public service, the more hoops you have to jump through to spend those funds. So here are the hoops. That first category, not a lot of rules. Low dollar amount you want to spend, so you can pretty much make a purchase at your own discretion.
And that next category of spend we have is called informal bidding. Typically speaking, you go out, you do 3 to 5 quotes, and you can satisfy the procurement rules of purchasing.
Yeah, but get to the next level, and you trigger the dreaded request for proposals process. So you hit a certain dollar threshold, and you're required in government to purchase off of a contract that's been created through a formal competitive bidding process.
Yeah. So by the way, it's worth noting that about 80% of local government spend falls in that category.
And it's also worth noting that the dollar threshold that triggers that requirement can vary quite a bit location to location. So in some cities, like the city of St. Louis, it's as low as $5,000. Just across the bay in the city of San Francisco, it's about $10,000. So just to recap, if you're in government and you want to spend sometimes as little as $5,000, you must purchase off of a contract that's been created through competitive bidding. So what's the problem?
So creating those competitively bid contracts, it's a lot of work. It's so much work, and it's so many processes that I can't even remember them off the top of my head. So I made this procurement Macarena that I'm about to do, and you all are welcome to join me in doing this.
We would appreciate it if you would join us. But hopefully this will help you remember all the steps in the competitive bidding process.
And so it goes a little like this. First, you got to do your market research. Thank you. And then you are going to have to write that solicitation.
Get all those requirements.
That's right. And then, you don't want to do it again. And then you're going to have to publish and advertise that solicitation.
For at least 6 weeks in some places, maybe more.
That's right. And then you're going to have to receive and evaluate those responses. And then you're going to have to decide, which supplier am I going to work with? And you better hope that no one protests the process or has any complaints about that process, because you're going to have to spend a lot of time in protest period.
Then we're done, right?
No, we're not done yet. And then we will go and negotiate. And then after that, yeah, we may arrive at a competitively bid contract.
Whew. All right. So that little dance there took us, like 15, 20 seconds? How long does it take in your experience, Annie?
Yeah, so from my experience, it's taken anywhere from about 4 months to 24 months.
Whew, all right. So what you're telling me is in government, it is time-consuming and expensive to create these new competitively bid contracts.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That's correct. But for suppliers?
Ditto. The real rub is that this process is oftentimes also redundant. So there are almost 90,000 local agencies across the country, and they spend over $1 trillion each year on similar goods and services. Even though these places are really special, the problems that they're trying to solve and the things that they're buying to address those challenges are not. That means that in most cases, local governments are creating their own contracts. So you have almost 90,000 agencies doing that procurement Macarena to buy a range of things, but they don't need to.
That's right. We don't need to. There's this thing, this tool that I want everybody here to know about, and it's called cooperative purchasing.
We wanted to channel Oprah a little bit in that moment. Cooperative purchasing.
No, she wanted to.
If you walk away from this conversation with anything to take away, it is that cooperative purchasing is a tool, whether you're in government or on the supplier side, that you can use to lower the costs of buying and selling in local government and make the process overall more efficient. Yeah. Basically, cooperative purchasing is just the idea that governments can share the procurement process. It can happen in a few different ways. It can happen when governments get together, do that procurement dance together, and create a shared contract that they can use to make a purchase. And it can also happen a little less synchronously. One agency can do that work, create the contract, and other agencies, if they can find that work, can actually purchase directly off that contract on the same terms from the same vendor without having to run their own new competitive bidding process from scratch.
That's right. So cooperative purchasing, a couple of key things to know. Yes, it is legal.
We get this question a lot. Is cooperative purchasing a hack? Is it a loophole? Is it a workaround? And the answer is no. It's actually a legal best practice, and it's in the American Bar Association Model Procurement Code. That means across the US, most states and most local governments, with very few exceptions, all allow for cooperative purchasing.
Yeah, so cooperative purchasing, it saves me a lot of time and money.
That's right. So the time savings are pretty intuitive. If someone else is running an administrative process and you benefit from that process, that saves you the work and the time of having to do that same process over again. And particularly relevant for this audience and over these last couple days as we're talking about innovative practices, tools, technologies. Cooperative purchasing is awesome for being able to access innovation faster. So when that time to procure matters more because that technology or solution that you want to acquire might not be relevant in 24 months, cooperative purchasing can help expedite that buying process. And the final piece, of course, is that it can save money. So if public agencies are aggregating their purchasing power, they're able to achieve lower prices overall for the goods and services that they need to buy.
And cooperative purchasing, it not only is helpful for us in government, but it's also helpful for all suppliers out there because it reduces the cost of our selling.
Yeah, so if you're in government, you should be paying attention, but if you're on the supplier side, you should also know about cooperative purchasing because the default way of selling into government is one-to-one. You're writing a love letter every time you submit that RFP and hoping to win that contract from that one government agency. But with cooperative contracts, you can go through that single process and emerge with a contract you can use to change your selling from one-to-one to one-to-many.
And cooperative purchasing, guess what? Any government at any level of purchasing can create these contracts.
Yeah, so this is another crazy thing. Governments are already churning out these contracts at various levels. So some of you might be familiar with federal work. You may have heard of national purchasing cooperatives or regional purchasing groups. And in addition to those groups, state agencies and local agencies can also create cooperative contracts as well. Just means running that competitive bidding process and including some language in the solicitation and the contract that says that the contract can be shared. That's
right. So cooperative purchasing, it's already happening.
Yeah, so this is the final big point about co-op purchasing, which is that it's not new, it's not a recent innovation, it's something that's an established practice. And even though governments across various levels are already creating these different contracts and they're spread out across a lot of different places, already governments are finding those contracts and using them whatever they can. At the local level, about 20% of purchasing spend goes through these contracts today, which is over $200 billion each year.
Yeah. That work, it's already happening. As a matter of fact, we're already collaborating. In the Portland metropolitan area, I lead a group of government buyers where we get together on a regular and we kind of sit down, we hash it out, we talk about these contracts we've got out on the streets and what we can share. We kind of took it up, step up a notch, and we sat down and we got this great idea to write it all down in an Excel spreadsheet. Really nifty, really cool work. But then we heard about this opportunity where we can take our contracts and we can share it on a national level and really help governments everywhere. And that opportunity came when we heard about CoProcure.
So we're working together because fundamentally we believe there should be more collaboration in procurement. CoProcure is a mission-driven technology startup based here in Oakland that's building the infrastructure to collect all of these contracts that are spread out over all of these different places and make it really easy for buyers to quickly find and compare and use those contracts that already exist. So our goal is for buyers like Annie to be able to know pretty quickly, hey, is there work out there that I can already use, or do I have to start this process from scratch on my own? We're also totally free for public agencies and want this data to be open and accessible. So you can go ahead and try it now and contribute at any time.
That's right. So we believe that collaboration, it will transform public procurement. By collaborating together, we can be more transparent in where this money is going to be going. We're going to be more efficient in how we spend this money, and we can share this money among many more diverse groups of suppliers. But we can't do it without your help. Here are just 3 things that you can do right now to improve your purchasing experiences. And the best part of it all, you don't have to change any rules or regulations.
Number 1, don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah. Make checking out contracts that already exist part of your procurement processes. Start your searches on CoProcure. Even if you can't buy off of a contract, you can still expedite your procurement processes and improve your benchmarking just by starting with something that's already there, right?
And if you're going to borrow from others, you should probably be better at sharing your own stuff too.
Yeah, whether you're in government or you're a supplier, we should all be working to push to have cooperative language as part of our bids and our contracts. If you don't see cooperative language in a contract, just ask. Publish your contract data through CoProcure, through any means that you possibly can, but CoProcure is free, so why not there? Other governments can use that information and really expedite their processes.
And then finally, we should be using cooperative purchasing to help onboard new suppliers and allow them to grow.
That's right. We could use cooperative language to help us achieve our supplier diversity goals. It's not enough for one agency to create and award one contract for suppliers. We in government, we need help to award contracts that allow suppliers to grow their businesses.
So, procurement matters a lot. And if you're in government or you're selling into government, you probably already know that.
And yeah, it's a little bit painful, but if we work together, we can make it better.
CoProcure is working with a growing group of public servants and suppliers across the country to improve public purchasing.
And we really hope you'll join us.
Thank you.